Good day, everybody. Thanks for listening to our podcast of Beyond 911. If anybody has any questions about any of the podcasts, or if you have an idea of a podcast, please email us at beyond911@peelpolice.ca. Looking forward to hearing your feedback. Good afternoon. I'm Sergeant Joe Carty from Peel Regional Police, and today I think this is going to be my favorite podcast because I'm all about real stories from real officers, and this is going to be a real story. Today we have our guest is Constable John Alwyn. He's 13 years on with Peel Regional Police. He started his career in uniform working at 22 Division. He also worked at domestic violence as the coordinator there, and currently he's in a criminal investigation bureau at 22 Division. Welcome, John.
Thank you.
And why I think this is a special one, because this one, like, I just met John recently, and this is going to be a difficult podcast because this officer was ambushed and shot in the line of duty in 2015. And today we're going to talk to him about this. We're going to talk about the incident. We're going to talk about PTSD. We're going to talk about mental health. We're going to talk about how to deal with adversity. Because when you're a police officer, we all know we're taught to run towards the trouble, not to run away from it. And that's what this officer did that day. And we're going to talk all about it. So let's get right into it. But before we start with the questions, there's this little audio that we have here at Peel that John, I know you're a part of, and it's basically the event. And I want, to me, it's really powerful, and I want to start the podcast with this. Can we put that our event on right now?
It was a Friday night. It was the last night of our set. I remember driving down McMurtry Avenue, just passing Memorial Arena, when dispatch went over the air, someone to take a unknown 911. I piped up and told her to put me on it. I pulled up in front of the house. There was this guy standing on the top of the driveway with his face covered. As he saw me, he started walking away. So I yelled out to him, "Hey buddy, get back here." And that's when he stopped, stared at me, pulled out a gun and started shooting. I knew I was in trouble. I thought I was gonna die. He was adamant. He just kept shooting. The cruiser was pelted with numerous bullets. There was holes throughout the door and the frame. And as I was put in the car in park, a bullet went right through my arm. Another one tore through the shell of my vest. I was able to put the car in drive with my left arm, drove off. As I rounded a corner, I was able to hit my 1033 on the MDU.
Sergeant 22 Delta 9 call, Sergeant 22 Delta 9. Sergeant 22 Delta 9 call, Sergeant 22 Delta 9.
Oh, that's shot!
Here's 20, 10-3, 10-3, unless Sergeant.
I lost control of the vehicle and took out a stop sign and brought the car to a stop around the corner, and that's when my partner, second unit, showed up.
22 Delta, he's been shot. We're at Hood and Lockwood.
10-4, all units, any available units, he was on Hood and Lockwood. 139, show me heading up.
22 Bravo, can you put me on that?
ETA on the ambulance. All one's starting to go out of consciousness.
I only heard that a couple of times, and to me, it just gets the hair standing on my neck. That's very powerful. And your career, you're 13 years on, like I said, we're not here to talk about your cases. We're not here to talk about your domestic violence, even though that's important. I want to basically, I invited you here to tell the audience what it's like on that day and what you had to go through, and that's what I'm going to focus on. So I'm going to get right into it. From just hearing that clip, sounds like you're in the ambulance right now. Are you conscious, unconscious, and if you are conscious, what are you thinking?
Well, that was my first time in an ambulance, and the pain was just starting to get pretty intense. I remember it was really cold and I was shivering. One bullet had gone through my arm and the other one tore through the front of my vest, and the paramedics, they had to check to see if the second shot had gone through my vest and hit me, so they cut my shirt off in the ambulance, and the doors were open and I was freezing cold. But the paramedics did a great job. They put me at ease right away and told me that the bullet went right through the arm and right through the bone, and they could see the entry and exit point. So luckily the bullet wasn't lodged in there, but I was really concerned that I didn't know what was going to happen because my arm looked terrible, and thought I was going to lose it.
Were you in pain right at that moment?
Yes.
This might sound like a dumb, stupid question, but that's the type of guy I am. What does it feel like to be shot? I think that's what people would really like to know.
Well, because it happened so fast, it took a few seconds to process what had happened. I just saw him pull out the gun and point it at me, and then I heard and felt my cruiser being pelted with bullets. So I was then hit with this sudden burst of pain, and my arm went limp. I thought for a minute that my arm was shot off from the elbow down because I couldn't feel it or move anything. There was just no feeling there. But the pain didn't really set in until that fear and adrenaline went away. That's when I felt like I was about to pass out, because at that point I saw my blood and it was starting to pool a bit at the in the cruiser, and I knew it wasn't good. But the pain got worse as time went on.
Now, I know in the clip it says that you drove off, you're able to do that. Is that because of your training, or just fighting to I want to live, I want to be part of something?
Yeah, that's just, at that point, I couldn't return any fire because that's my firing arm that was injured. So I didn't have any choice there. I had to throw the car in drive with my left arm and just get out of there.
That saved you.
Yeah.
Now, it was your left arm that got shot.
It was my right.
Right arm.
Yeah.
Right arm that got shot. Because your injuries.
My right humerus was shattered just above the elbow. I went for surgery right away and had 2 stainless steel rods put in, and they had to perform a nerve transposition, which is where all the nerve had to be repositioned. And although the bullet went right through my arm, there were several bullet fragments that had to be removed as well. They got most of the bigger pieces, but there's still a few smaller ones floating around in there that they can't get out. But for the most part, I'm doing really well. Unfortunately, about 1.5 years ago, I started experiencing some nerve issues, and I'm currently seeking some treatment for that, but still trying to find out what's causing that pain.
When I hear this, it's amazing, because I'm an officer, and let's be honest, you're the only person I ever met that's been shot, thank God. When I watch a movie or a TV show, I always see cops getting shot, and next scene they're wearing a bandage on their arm and they're performing their duties. I know it's not like that, and I guess you obviously went through it.
Right.
How many months before you return to work? What's the rehab like? This is not something that happens overnight. So this is like a long process, I'm assuming. I don't know. I'm going to ask you that question. So when you get shot and you're at the doctor's the next day, do they put you on a schedule for rehab? Do they give you specific exercises? Do you have to go for secondary surgeries? Or is it like the movies, you are back a week later on the duty?
No, well, it's I'm back to work now, but I was off for 9 or 10 months. The first month after the shooting was probably the most difficult because I didn't know what was going to happen. I still didn't have any feeling in my arm, and I could barely move it. And during my first follow-up with the surgeon, I asked how long he thought it would be before I'd regain feeling and strength in my arm again and be able to return to work. And he said to me, and I'll never forget, he said, John, have you thought about a career change? And that was tough to hear because it's something I never considered. I thought that with time my arm would heal and I would be back to normal. So that sat in the back of my mind for a long time. But I had so much support from my fellow officers that I knew I'd return one day. I wasn't going to let some scumbag end my career by shooting me. Everyone kept me positive and were so encouraging. And, on that night of the shooting, when I think about the bravery shown by all the men and women of our service, it's incredible. There was an active shooter that night trying to kill an officer, and nobody hesitated to come to my rescue. Hearing that recording, when I hit my 10:33, the cavalry was on their way, and I played that tape over and over, and everyone, including our amazing communicators and dispatch, all did a great job that night, and I had no doubt I'd be back. As far as rehab is ongoing. I've never gained 100% strength back in my arm because the arm is literally being held together by 2 rods. And I'll forever be limited with what I can lift.
But you're on active duty right now.
I am. And I do have enough strength to return to work. But in general, it's, I've still got to do physio because of the nerve issue I'm having, and, I may require some more surgery. But, we're still trying to confirm the cause of that pain. But, considering everything with the damage and all with the bone being completely shattered, I'm doing pretty well.
So when the doctor tells you, hey, it's time for a career change, I know the doctor's not trying to be mean, not to be rude, but that must put your mind like, what am I going to do? Or were you totally, you know what, this ain't stopping me. I'm going to become back a police officer.
I was adamant to come back. Like I couldn't think of doing anything else. There was so much other stuff going on. I never considered it.
So 10 months before you came back. It's a lot of rehab. Are you going once, twice a week, 3 times a week? Because you're always at home daily working on that arm?
I was going 2-3 times a week for quite a few months. Started at just being able to lift half a pound and gradually up to about 25 pounds, and that's when I'm starting to feel that's like the max I can probably do these days with my one arm for feeling it.
So it's safe to say, even though you're functional, you'll never be back to normal.
Correct. Yeah.
So when someone goes through something like this, like what you just went through, some people will give up and go, oh my God, and feel sorry for themselves. And I liked your attitude by even after what the doctor said to you. But what got you motivated to just keep going through this?
Well, about a year into rehab, I hit a plateau where I found I wasn't gaining any more strength, and that was pretty discouraging. So I pushed myself. I set a goal where I would at least gain enough strength and ability to do something that I love to do, and that was to kayak again. Years ago, I took up kayaking while in the Yukon, and I wanted to reach that physical ability again. So with the help of my physiotherapist, we worked at it, and a year and a half later, I found myself kayaking out in Sweden on the Baltic Sea. So it was the motivation I needed. It was great.
So you're a big kayaker, then that's your sport?
That was one of them, yeah. And while I was out there, I took an outdoor survival course and lived off the grid for 5 days in northern Sweden. So I found setting specific goals was a huge motivating factor for me.
Someone, I won't mention names here because they're gonna leak something, one of your accomplishments, and I want to talk about. And don't be shy, and because I know it's true, and I want to know more about it. Because when I did some research on this is how I found it out through your peers. Mount Kilimanjaro. Am I pronouncing that right?
Kilimanjaro.
Kilimanjaro.
Kilimanjaro, yeah.
Kilimanjaro.
Yeah.
Okay. And the reason why I bring that up, because they told me to, they advised me that you climbed it. And it's a big mountain. I did my research online. It's a big mountain. It's one of the biggest in the world. And from my understanding, like 20 people die each year trying to climb that mountain. How does this come about? Here you are, you get shot, and now your friends are telling me that you did this.
Well, a few weeks before the shooting, I was talking to a friend about Mount Everest and climbing the base camp. And after my trip to Sweden, I began thinking about what I wanted to do next. So physically, I had some concerns about Everest just because the technical aspects of the climb and not holding up to the physical level required that you need to summit there. So I started doing some research on Kilimanjaro. And at that point in my recovery, I realized just how fortunate I was and overwhelmed with so much support from my peers, and I wanted to pay it forward. So I dedicated the climb to raise some awareness and funds for first responders who suffer from PTSD and operational stress injuries.
So this is, you're raising awareness for PTSD, for injuries, to climb a mountain that's not easy to do. Before I even get to the PTSD and all that great work you're doing, I want to get back to you. And like, can anyone just go and climb this mountain, or do you have to train for this? Do you have to? It's like, I don't know. I never did mountain climbing. I don't know if you did before your injury.
Well, it's Kilimanjaro. It's a very long trek. It's a hike. It's not really technical. I don't, probably about 70% people that try it is a success rate. But on that, it's about, one person dies a month each month trying to climb it. And it's usually altitude related. I did a lot of training. I did hours of hiking in the summer and tons of snowshoeing in winter. I also did a lot of stairs going up and down the Niagara Escarpment.
Well, it's not easy to do. So I wouldn't recommend anyone to do this. You got to train for it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. The mountain itself is almost 20,000 feet, 19,341 to be exact.
Wow.
And it's the height of about 10 and a half CN towers. So I couldn't really train for that type of altitude, but I went out west and did some hiking in Alberta. But again, the highest elevation I reached out there was about 8,000 feet.
So why do all these people fail and you're able to do it? Is it just determination or training?
Determination. And, a lot of people fail because of the altitude sickness, for sure. A lot of people try to climb it without letting their bodies acclimatize and end up suffering from hypoxia, which is a lack of oxygen to the brain.
Oof. Can I say it's like a dormant volcano, basically, this mountain?
Yeah, it's, I think it last erupted 200,000 years ago or something like that.
Okay,
yeah.
It's dormant. It's I know it's the mountain is one of the 7 summits of the world, and it's in Africa, and the mountain's on the equator, so it must have been pretty hot climbing up there. Were you wearing your sandals and shorts? I know, I'm just kidding there. You must have the good shoes on, but it's I guess it's easier when it's in the heat. I don't know. Don't know where I'm going with that question, but
well, it's you definitely have to prepare for everything. When you start out at the base, you're in this humid jungle surrounded by wild animals and exotic birds, and 6 days later after climbing, you're up in this Arctic mountaintop.
Wait. You're in the it's cold.
Yeah, when you get up, when you get to the top, it's up to it's covered in snow and ice.
But isn't on the it's in Africa? Isn't it supposed to be hot?
Yeah, it's.
So you have to carry winter gear. Like what are you? You're in the bottom. You're wearing your
dress. You got to be prepared for everything. Like I said, you start out. You're hot. You're in shorts and hiking boots, and by the time you get to the top, there you're full winter gear head to toe. Yeah,
that's amazing. I never. You know what? It's common sense when you think about it. Since I don't do mountain climbing, but it makes sense now. The higher you go, the colder it will get.
Oh yeah, it's well below zero. The nights are really cold, especially the higher you get. You got to sleep in layers of clothing and in one of those sub-zero mummy sleeping bags that It was cold. You wake up in the morning and your tent is covered in ice from all the condensation freezing on it. Yeah.
I think I'll stay to my Netflix and chill. How did you feel when you reached the top of the mountain? Like that's a major accomplishment. Something that not many people can do or will do.
Tired. I was tired and relieved. The most difficult part I found was summit day, because you climb about 5,000 feet in a short period of time, and you have to do that in the middle of the night, because as you reach the summit, it gets steeper, and the ground is this fine mix of volcanic rock and dirt, and at night the ground freezes, and it's much easier to gain traction. But once the sun rises, that ground turns to this mush, and at that altitude, you're really struggling to breathe with a lack of oxygen, and exerting yourself at that point doesn't help. But when you finally make it to the summit there, you have this huge sense of relief and accomplishment, and it was an amazing feeling. You know, our group took a bunch of pictures, and we didn't stay up there too long because people started to feel ill with the air. It's so thin, and the effects of the altitude was taking a toll on us, so we started making our way down and got some air. It was a phenomenal experience.
You said before that you dedicated the climb to raise awareness for post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, and the operational stress injuries, which is great. I know you don't have to answer this question, because I'm really going to put you on the spot here, and this is personal. Do you suffer from PTSD?
No, I was never diagnosed with PTSD, but the first week after the shooting, I was in a different place. I'm sure I had a huge part of. I was on a lot of pain meds, and I really wasn't in a clear state of mind for the first week or so. There's so many uncertainties in my health and my career. But although I wanted to go back to work, I didn't know if I should, and if I did, at what capacity. So I wasn't sure how I'd react in another life-threatening situation, but I chose to speak to a professional, and 5 years later, I feel like $1 million, other than the nagging arm injury.
I know you're not a doctor, but I know because of what you went through, and you spoke to people, and I think our audience could learn a little from here, because I can't bring much to the table on this. I want what you think of this is, because of what you went through. What is PTSD?
Yeah, I'm not an expert in the condition, but during my recovery, I learned that PTSD is a psychological condition. It develops after experiencing some sort of traumatic event, such as being involved in a shooting, or being involved in an accident, or some other violent act like an assault. Also witnessing death over and over, or losing a loved one. There are many things that can cause it, and if I'm not mistaken, I believe you have to suffer from symptoms for a certain period of time before an official diagnosis of PTSD is considered.
Again, I know you're not a doctor, but just for the audience out there, because you have some knowledge on that, and from the research you're doing, and like you said, anyone can have PTSD. You don't have to be an officer. You could be someone who witnesses a car accident, for example. What are the symptoms of PTSD?
Reliving the event over and over, having flashbacks, disturbing thoughts, nightmares, avoiding people and places, mood swings, feeling negative, irritable, hard time sleeping, constantly on guard. I definitely had my fair share of those symptoms early in my recovery, but I believe that because I spoke to a professional, I avoided any long-term effects, and got on my way, got on with my life pretty quickly. not a single day has gone by where I don't think about the shooting, but I've learned to deal with it, and life goes on. Having said that, the experience has connected me with people who do suffer from PTSD, and I can tell you that it is real, and it's something that people need to talk about.
Okay, so I'm sorry to cut you off there for a sec, because I know you.
No,
something in my head
good.
that when you said you reached out for professional support. Are you comfortable to talk about it? And the reason why I'm saying that, because I don't know if that's easy to do. If you're having a problem, everyone likes to, when they have a problem, I could solve it. I don't need to go to somebody. I don't need to see a psychiatrist. I don't need to see a doctor. I don't need to talk to my wife or my girlfriend or my neighbor. You reached out. Was that something hard to do?
For me, it was preventative. I was encouraged by the service to speak to a professional right away. I didn't feel I needed to, and honestly, just to appease the people around me, I reluctantly did, and I don't regret it. The stigma associated with talking to a psychologist was a concern for me at the time, but it's no big deal. And after the shooting, I was approached by a few people who told me, in confidence, that they sought professional help after going through some hardships, and that was probably the deciding factor for me to go on with it.
So if someone who listening to this podcast today is going through PTSD or assumes they are, I guess the advice you would give them is to go seek professional help, talk to somebody?
Talk to somebody, absolutely. No need to suffer alone.
Good way of putting it.
Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah.
Are you the same person before you were shot?
Some people that have known me for a while say that they've seen a change in me, but I don't think so. I do have a slightly different look at life, I guess. I rarely hold back from doing things that I want to do. I've realized life's short, and without taking irresponsible risks, you have to enjoy life.
So it did change you. It made you more adventurous.
I guess.
Climbing mountains to kayaking in Sweden. Was it Sweden? Yeah, Sweden.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people would ask this question, especially the people that know you would maybe know, but the ones who don't know you, did it change the way you do the job? Do you police differently?
I can't say that I police any differently, other than saying I'm probably more alert in certain situations, especially when dealing with people where weapons are or could be involved. So, but for the most part, I'd say no.
It's remarkable how you overcame all this, and it's adversity. And what does adversity mean to you?
Test question. Okay, they're getting harder.
Everyone who sits in your seats on the hot seat with me, I just whatever comes in my head.
I don't know if I know if it's the right answer, but I'd say dealing with a difficult situation and getting through a tough time by drawing from past experiences, not giving up.
Okay, not giving up. So is it adversity similar to hardship? Or does hardship build character, or does adversity build character? Like, how do we...
Absolutely. Yeah, part of the survival course I was on in Sweden had me going from camp to camp, trekking through this forest without the use of any electrical aids, no GPS, digital maps, nothing, just a paper map and a compass. And one day I went off course by about 10 kilometers and got lost. At one point I came across this log home on a dirt road, tried to ask for directions, but people didn't speak English. They couldn't help me. So I had no clue where I was, and started to panic a bit. Long story short, eventually, and I don't know how, I found my bearings and made it back to camp. 2 weeks later, I'm back home, and I'm enrolled in school at Humber College. It was the first day, and I decided that I'm going to take public transit to save a few bucks on gas and parking. And
Are you trying to tell everyone here you're cheap?
Yeah, what? I have to. Well, so I get on this TTC bus or streetcar, whatever it was, and I think I missed my stop. And I'm already a little nervous because I haven't been to school in years, and I don't really know where I am. I don't recognize any buildings. Again, I feel lost, and I have a million things going through my head, so I start to panic a bit. Then I stop and think about, where I was 2 weeks ago, lost in a Swedish forest with nobody to talk to, no one to communicate with, and I just had to laugh because the situation I was in, it was nothing. It was a bit of fear and panic because I wasn't 100% sure where I was, but I was home, and in the end, it was nothing. I just I asked the bus driver, I'm like, hey, how do I get to Humber? And he's like, yeah, it's 2 stops from here, man, and you'll be there in a minute. But just going through being lost the first time in a more serious situation, it just kind of you get over it a lot easier.
That's yeah. I see how you said it. You said it really
well. It's stupid, but it's a way of example of drawing from past experiences, I guess.
Yeah. It's like me when I go to IKEA. If I get lost in there,
there you go.
We're not going to go there. More on a serious note, because I think this is there's a lot to learn from you. Is what would you say to someone who is suffering from mental illness or PTSD but doesn't want to get help?
I would probably ask, if you weren't feeling physically well, if your body had aches and pains, would you go see a doctor? And, not feeling mentally well should be the same way. It doesn't hurt to talk to somebody. You got to look after your mind as well.
I know we kind of touched on this, that asking for help is a sign of weakness. And I'm hoping the answer will prove the opposite, which you already did. But Ken, would you agree with this statement? Just from talking to you now, and it hit me. I never really thought of that this way, and I always thought the opposite, maybe because of my Burt Reynolds upbringing, where you have to be macho. But asking for help, that's actually a sign of strength? Because I know when I grew up, it wasn't. But I think the way I grew up was wrong. You do like the Burt Reynolds lifestyle, which the machoism is. I don't know if it's. I think you should ask for help. I think you changed me a lot in this podcast.
Well, we got time. We got another quick story for you.
Plenty of time.
Presented on the Epaulets Talk Day presentation a year and a half ago. Back to Kilimanjaro. Before climbing, we had a pre-climb briefing where we were advised by the guides that they were going to be monitoring our health as we climb the mountain, and they're going to be watching for signs of altitude sickness or hypoxia again, which is basically, again, the lack of oxygen to the brain. Their concern is that someone dies each month trying to climb it. So during this daily briefing, we were told that, if the guides felt we should descend, then, go back down, then we'd have to descend because, they know the signs of someone who probably won't make it to the summit, and they'd probably be putting their life at risk if they continued. So during the climb, every day, before dinner, we would report for a medical where they would check our vitals, check our blood pressure, check our blood oxygen levels, our temperature, as well as recording our food and fluid intakes, just to make sure we were eating and drinking enough. We also had a rate on a scale of 1 to 10 how we felt with regards to the altitude symptoms, with 10 feeling the best. And some of the symptoms were included sickness, headaches, vomiting, dizziness, stomach pain, shortness of breath. They wanted to get a reading for how we felt. So as we got higher, I started to experience mild symptoms, but I didn't want to admit it because everyone else in the team was reporting that they were feeling a 10. And
how are you feeling?
I was afraid that, if I would say that I was feeling ill, that they would send me down and I'd lose everything. So on day 5, we break through the clouds at about 12,000 feet, and I start getting a little concerned with the headaches and shortness of breath I was feeling. I had a terrible sleep that night, and I felt like I was just being squeezed around my chest. So during the next medical check, I was the first to admit that I wasn't feeling well, and I said on a scale of 1 to 10, I was an 8. And everyone stopped and stared for a second, but then one by one, others after me started to admit they weren't feeling well. And I was so relieved to see that I wasn't alone. You know, someone told me after that, if I hadn't been the first to admit it, you know, they wouldn't have followed. And so now, with the guides knowing that we were all feeling the effects of the high altitude, they started to change our routines. They had us drinking some more water. They adjusted our Diamox, which is a medication for altitude. And we increased some exercises to acclimatize to the higher altitude. And we all felt better, and we all made it to the summit. And, you know, it's just amazing how starting that conversation encouraged others to start talking and open up. You know, on Kilimanjaro, admitting we weren't well was the first step in getting better. And down here, it's no different.
Wow, very inspirational. You are very inspirational, John. I'm going to tell you something that you may not know. I first met you, I guess, 2017. I don't know if you recall this. This was our training for use of force, where we do scenario-based training, and basically for the audience, the training's about we get in a situation where we have actors, and they'll be in a situation where they'll shoot at us. It's just to get us better so we could be better officers. And we all get our turns. And I remember sitting in the gym, because I was in line to go next with my partner. Yes, it was Stu Proctor. We're sitting there in line, and we're talking about, they're going to probably come out of and shoot us. And I'm going, no one knows what to do in a gunfight. And you're sitting there all there in the quiet in the corner, and I never saw you before. I knew the officer, John Alwyn, never met him, who got shot. And while we're talking, you just spoke up, and you just said, let your training take over, and you'll be fine. And I look over, and I go, who is this clown? And I go, what? And you go, yeah, you can never possibly train for everything. You do the best you can, and the more training you are, you do better, which is very wise. And I'm going like, yeah. He goes, when I was shot, I go, you were shot? And you said, yeah, I was shot like a year and a half, 2 years ago. And I go, that can't be, because it's why you're here at work, why you're training. And I go, you're John Alwyn. And you went, yeah. And I started singing the song, Johnny, we're sorry, won't you come? I don't know if you remember that.
Yes, I do.
And that was to bring humor to it. And I'm going, I was so inspired that you shot in the line of duty, ambushed, like discarded to like for that bad guy to leave you to die, and you're back at work already. And you didn't even phase, you didn't blink. You go, that's my job, to serve the community. I was inspired that day.
Yeah, no doubt. I was definitely coming back.
And I know everyone thinks I wing these podcasts, but I really do some research sometimes. That's how I knew you climbed Mount Kilimanjaro.
Kilimanjaro.
That's it.
Yeah.
Whatever, if I pronounce it, go by him, don't go by how I'm saying it. But I also know something else. Every May, our service and our community might notice this, that we wear green epaulets. And I'm going to let you tell the story, because I know it, because I did my research. You're trying to think I wing things. No, I do my research. What's our green epaulets all about?
All right, so the month of May was Mental Health Awareness Month, and Peel Beyond the Blue, along with the service, brought the Green Epaulette Campaign to Peel to get people talking about mental health.
And I know it's called Beyond the Blue. And what is Beyond the Blue? I know a lot about this one. I did my research.
So Peel Beyond the Blue is they're a nonprofit organization that supports the spouses and families of law enforcement. There are several chapters throughout Canada, and they understand the unique circumstances that families of officers face, and they offer resources and run different workshops for the members throughout the year.
Okay, I'm just going to get ready to do it because you're not going where I want you to go. Mm-hmm. I understand your wife's a part of Beyond the Blue, which is remarkable.
Yes, my wife Caitlin is president of the Peel chapter.
That's amazing.
And and along with Vice President Karina DeCampo-Nash, they started the chapter here last year and are doing a phenomenal job.
And how did your wife get involved in this Beyond the Blue, which is an amazing organization?
Canada Beyond the Blue. So Canada Beyond the Blue was expanding, and Caitlin was asked if she was interested in starting a Peel chapter. And once she learned what they were all about, she jumped at the opportunity because Caitlin knows firsthand the unique needs and support a spouse of an officer faces. So she's been through the ordeal of getting that knock on the door in the middle of the night and saying your husband's shot. So she knows what it's about. Caitlin and Karina, they're both very passionate about Beyond the Blue, and it shows. They during this Epaulette campaign, they sold over 630 sets of Green Epaulets, which speak volumes for their dedication. So, along with the support of Org Wellness, helping to get the word out there, they did an amazing job. So, good job to all.
That's amazing for all the officers out there who don't know about this program, because we're always busy working. Or just remember, when you see the Green Epaulets, do your research, buy a pair. This helps so many people. I got a pair, and I know it's past May now, but next May I'll be buying another pair to make sure I support this good cause. Like I say in every podcast, I'm from the Belle Province de Quebec. And in Quebec, we have something in my community, the Ville-Salle. The key to talking to about a person and knowing about the person is knowing the garnishing on a hot dog tells a lot about a person. John, I'm going to ask you this strange question, because if you don't answer this right, because right now your stock's high with me, what garnishings do you like on your hot dogs?
Everything.
Well, what's everything?
Lots of pickles.
Pickles.
Yeah, pickles, onions, mustard, sauerkraut.
Oh, you just smack it all on there.
Everything.
So you have more garnishings than hot dog?
Absolutely.
Okay, John. Okay, I'm going to tell you a secret. The key to a hot dog, everyone could cook a hot dog. No one messes that up. The key is the garnishings.
Yeah.
And if you get the garnishing right, you get the perfect hot dog.
Yeah.
See, right now with you going overloaded, that tells me someone that just enjoys life. You're just slapping the mustard, you're putting the relish, the pickles, the coleslaw, everything on it. But if you really want to impress someone with hot dog, because everyone in here in Ontario likes the ketchup, no ketchup required.
Really?
It's onion, mustard, coleslaw. You do that, you have the perfect hot dog. Trust me, try that this summer. You're going to be barbecuing hot dogs. Try that.
Sounds gross, but I'll try it.
No, you're going to go, oh my God, this is the best ever. So my audience, remember, the key to a hot dog, garnishings, mustard, onion, coleslaw. That's all you need.
All right.
John, this has been amazing, and I want to know, what is next for John Alwyn?
Career-wise, I'm very content where I am right now. I work with a great team at 22 CIB and have no plans on going anywhere anytime soon.
For the audience, CIB is the Criminal Investigative Bureau.
Right. They
do more, like, for lack of better knowledge for external audience, major crime.
Right. But as far as my next adventure, I don't know. I'm thinking of heading to the Antarctic.
What?
Or maybe one day I'll make it to Everest. Who knows?
How did you come up with that? Why can't you do something simple like go to Guelph and go in a swimming pool this summer?
I don't know. I need more than that.
I admire you. That's something I couldn't do. I admire you. I really appreciate you being here today, because what you brought to the table is not many people would talk about. What you went through and where you are today is just inspirational. And for all the people out there, post-traumatic stress disorder. If you are suffering, do reach out. Don't need to be the macho guy. I think what you said it perfectly. Don't suffer alone. Was that the phrase? Yeah, don't suffer alone. I think when you're with people, it's better that way. Anybody, our audience, with any questions you want to do about our podcast or any ideas you want to see us talk about, you can email us anytime at beyond911@peelpolice.ca. And again, thank you, John Alwyn. It was a pleasure to have you here today.
Thank you.